Season 4, y'all, of Jaren Gel Podcast.
We are back for Season 4, y'all.
Yes, we are.
And I'm excited.
We are excited. As we step into this new, amazing year of 2024, it's time for a rejuvenating, transformative journey. As we explore exciting topics, thoughtful conversations, with a little sprinkle of laughter.
We're not relationship experts, and this isn't professional life advice.
We're just two ordinary souls willing to share our extraordinary journey in the hope of inspiring and encouraging you. So join us as we navigate this journey of self-improvement and empowerment, providing you with the tools to make 2024 your best year yet. Individually. And 2023-2024 was a fast transition, and it has already been over 3 months since our last podcast. So let's get started. Well, have you ever made a mistake?
I've made many mistakes.
Name one.
But I guess what we're trying to go back to is mistakes that have caused us to have difficulty in moving forward, or that have put us in a place of depression, or put us in a place of shame, or put us in a place of rejection. Because I guess that can still put you. I mean, you can have a mindset of that based on your decisions. You can still feel that. Yeah, I've had decisions that I've made that I've regretted. I've had decisions that I don't know if I've had like major decisions that I've made that have held me back based on what I've done, like because of some of the decisions that I've made to make that happen. Does that make sense? But yeah.
Well, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in your past that you think?
As far as what has prevented me from moving forward, I think one of the biggest, I wouldn't say one of the biggest mistake, which I'm still affected by it today, is when I decided that I didn't trust God. And I kind of thought everything was just like, despite whether I do something right or I do something wrong, I get the same result. So why just not be me or be what I want to do or be who I want to be or act how I want to act? But in that, I took many steps back from where my relationship was with God and the closeness that I felt with Him at one time, and then not living in a way to honor Him. And I think that was the biggest thing, that it just, to get back to where you feel like, not in a sense that I'm worthy, but to get back to a point or to a place where I feel like I'm living effectively. And not just by what my thoughts are, but what my actions are and how I make decisions and what I do with those decisions and, in sense of moving forward.
So let me ask this. What was the turning point in your life that made you not trust God?
Many failed relationships.
Okay, so it started there.
Had a second marriage that failed. Walked away with that with a lot of rejection, with feelings of not being worthy, with feelings of not being good enough. And during that time, I've shared many times that I when someone would ask me, or someone asked me, "Who are you?" as a man? Who are you as Jeremy? Not who are you, Jeremy, with your kids? Who are you, Jeremy, with what you own or what all that stuff? But who are you? Just aside from everything stripped away, who am I as a person? And I couldn't answer that. So then I took time and I tried to figure out and seek God and asked him to show me who I am and what my purpose is and who I should be. Mm-hmm. And then I stayed abstinent from sexual activities. And I really did. I really dug in. I got in the Word. I surrounded myself with people that were going to encourage me and lift me up and speak life into me. And I feel in my walk and where I ended up at that time, like it was probably one of the most authentic times that I was close to God, where it wasn't just, oh, I have to go to church today. Oh, I have to read a Bible verse. Oh, I have to listen to worship music. Like I really passionately leaned towards that stuff.
Yeah.
Like when I would get out of work, I would go home and I would read my Bible. Bubble.
Your bubble?
Bubble. I would read my Bible. Is all I did was listen to worship music. I didn't drink alcohol. I wouldn't do drugs. I didn't do anything aside from that. So I was like, I am going to really push forward and seek God. And in that sense, I did. And then I was like, talk to someone that was saying, well, if you're lonely if you're single for too long, then basically you can become not like, I don't know, undateable in a sense.
Wait. If you're single for too long, you become undateable?
That was kind of the discussion.
This was wise words from a person?
Yes.
Do I know this person?
Yes. But.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then I think the other parts that were discussed and talked about is basically, you know, if you're, you can get too Christianese or whatever.
Oh
you know?
My gosh.
So at that time, I wasn't dating, I wasn't doing anything, and I wasn't looking, I wasn't trying to find anything. But then I started asking God, I started praying. I was like, God, show me, put someone in my life if that's for me, if it's going to work out, it's going to be you, it's not going to be me. Anyways, went through that. And you know how that ended up.
Yes. Marriage number 3.
Yes, that was the third marriage. And it lasted like
2 months.
Yeah, if that, I think. Yeah, it was just maybe just over a little 2 months, and then it was done. And I walked away from that as being like, okay, what did I do?
You thought that was from God.
I did because everything kind of lined up, and everyone that I talked to, as far as people that were being vocal in my life, well, not everybody, I guess, but some people that were vocal in my life at that time were like, yeah, you know, she's a believer, she serves, she's this and that, and, you know, a great woman of God, and, you know, all this stuff. But it's easy for people to put on that face in front of anyone, right?
Yeah, Satan.
I've done it. I've done it before.
Satan goes to church.
Yeah. So when that marriage ended, I felt like after I committed so much time to me seeking God and pursuing what righteousness is supposed to be, and not doing this and that and going off of my emotions and my feelings and my desires, after that failed, I was just like, what's the purpose? And then, like, kind of everything just started, it felt like everything was crumbling after that, in a sense. So you
lost faith and trust in God even more after that.
Yeah, I did. And then, you know, with things that came around with COVID and people that we lost, and the way that some things happened during that time, and it was just like, this is just ugh.
This life sucks. I'm done being a Christian. That was your mentality.
Well, that was my actions.
Yeah.
I didn't stay that.
That's
I didn't
true.
put that out there, but I wasn't like, for as much as I used to go to church and I used to serve, I pulled back, like way back. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing what I wanted to do.
And how did that turn out?
Not as bad as it could have been, but
like, if you look at both, you walking with God, you not walking with God, which one was better?
Oh, of course,
because God doesn't promise us a perfect life. He does not say we are going to have a perfect life without any struggle.
Nope.
No, there will be struggle, whether you walk with God or without God. So it's like, choose your heart. Do you want to do it with God or without God?
Yep.
So my question was, which one was better?
Of course, walking with God is always better. Mm-hmm. It's just we allow ourselves to get in the way of what is right. And like you said, God doesn't put that on us and decide that stuff to happen and be like, oh, I'm going to let Jeremy go through this. And there he goes, fail, Let him walk away from another marriage feeling like he's, not good enough, or like something's wrong with him or whatever. Mm-hmm. So after that, I was just like, I think I'm done.
Well, I think that happens to a lot of us. We all lose sight of God, and we lose trust in him because of our experiences in life that we go through.
Yeah.
And if, like me, I grew up in church, I was in, I was out. I was in, I was out. Finally, I'm stable now that I have been in, haven't fallen off really at all in, I don't know, like the last maybe 5, 6 years. But I've always known God. It's just sometimes we choose a different way, or we like, I'm going to take a break right now. I'll come back.
Yeah.
Which is not how it's supposed to be.
No.
And every time I've taken a break from being in my word, seeking God, serving at church, it's just awful for me. I mean,
what makes it awful? When you think of that, what is your thought of like awful? Is it just because you're the distance, or is it because the experiences?
I think it's the distance in my relationship with God, yes, but it's the choices that I make and the way that I think without him.
I think that's
especially my choices.
We do things so selfishly at that time where we don't think. We just jump into, oh, that seems fine. Go try that, or I'm going to do that. And then we end up being like, oh, I should not have done that. That was a big mistake.
There was a lot of, maybe I shouldn't have done that moments. And then, like, I guess I'll start with, because I grew up in church, but then, when I left high school and went to college, I didn't have a home church. I moved away from Albuquerque, and I went to New Mexico State University, lived in the dorm, got the full college experience, and met a guy. And, I was having sex before marriage. I was drinking, never got into drugs, thank God. But I just wasn't really living a life that honors God. And so.
But you were familiar with that life at that time?
Well.
Or just in your youth?
In my youth, what I've experienced, because even though I grew up in church, there's times where my parents didn't go to church. They had moments of, we're not going to go right now. And so there's times where they decided, like when I started driving, they decided that they weren't going to go to church, but I still wanted to go. So I would just take myself to church. And it was to the point where my mom's like, because me and my brother would go.
I remember you saying,
they're like, where are you guys going? I'm like, to church. Yeah, right. They didn't believe us. I'm like, we're going to church. We have Bible study this day. We got youth group this day. We were involved.
Mom and Dad were thinking they're going to a party.
Yeah. So, and we weren't ever back super late either, like 10:30. You know, because after youth group or after Bible study, I was like, oh, let's go to Dion's, you know. So they didn't believe us. But, you know, there's times in my youth, like in my high school years where, I wasn't serving God and I was like drinking alcohol with my friends. And I didn't get into the whole sex thing until senior year, really. But
the sexing as far as experiencing it?
Yeah, experiencing sex. I mean, like, actual, like, sex. Like, not...
penetration?
Yeah, not oral, but, like, penetration. Yeah, that. But, anyways, so then, so, I guess when I finally, you know, went off to college, it's just... it became more of the world and less of God because I didn't have a home church over there. I wasn't trying to look for a home church. Like, okay, I'm in college now. I get to do whatever I want. No parents telling me anything. You know, I was experiencing this new freedom without any guidance.
Before you go into the college experience, can you explain your high school experience? So when you did experience sex, during that time, you've shared with me in the past that wasn't something that you really wanted to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something like you were like open and willing and being like, oh, I really need to do this because I want to. Mm-hmm. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
It was because of... it
was more of like I felt peer pressure. Nobody told me to go lose my virginity. But it was the friends that I had at the time. You know, I was the last one of my friend group to be a virgin. And I literally was waiting to marriage. Like, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to give that to my future husband. I didn't feel like I was ready for that. Like, you know, I would make out hardcore with a guy, you know, get to second base maybe. But I would never go further than that. And so... I just felt convicted. I felt like, no, I can't. I'm done. Like, we're going to stop. But then when I was the last one to be a virgin and my friends would talk about their sex experiences and all that, I would be left out. And it got to the point where I would hear stuff like, oh, wait, we got to stop talking. Virgin years is coming or whatever, right?
Because you didn't relate to what they were talking about, or you just stood out as being...
I have no idea.
She hasn't had sex yet, so let's
I think it's just because I just hadn't had sex yet. I don't know if I could relate to them because I don't think I really... Honestly, that was such a long time ago. I'm trying to remember like what they would even talk about. I don't even remember what they would talk about, but I know they would talk about it. And so I got this job senior year at the mall selling shoes. And there was a guy, an older guy that worked at one of the mall kiosks there, like across the hall. And I ended up talking to him. And
how old were you at this time?
I was 17. And he was 23. And so I ended up talking
Older men make better lovers.
Wow. Is that really a song?
I don't know. I just made that up.
Well, it came to the point where I was hanging out with him. I was going over to his house. And I made it a point to lose my virginity to this guy. Because in my mind, I was like, well, I'm the last one. Might as well get it over with before college. Like, I just told everyone, oh, I didn't want to go to college a virgin, right? Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the case. I was just tired of everyone's crap. Yeah. And so instead of standing firm in my beliefs and not caring because now I don't care what you think, right?
Yeah.
But you don't get that till you're older. When you're a teenager, you're like...
well, experiences get you
right
there. Yeah.
So I lost it. I ended up telling my friends. They were so disappointed. All that crap. And they're going to tell me, but why did you do that? I was like, oh, okay. all right, that's the last time I do anything like that again. Like, just because I feel a certain way and people are giving me crap about a certain thing that I'm not doing or whatever. And then me doing, because it felt awful to, like, one, lose it to someone I didn't even love. And it was an awful first experience.
Why is that?
Because when I was done, well, one, it was quick. And two,
For you or for him?
I think for both.
Yeah.
Because one, I did not climax. So I didn't even know what to
An
expect
orgasm
or,
was,
yeah.
Well, what it was going to be like in that sense. Yeah.
And then it was so fast. And after it was all done, my thought was, that was it. Like, that's what everyone
made all this hype about.
I was expecting it to be more like I believed the hype. I was like, okay, this is supposed to be good, whatever. It was not. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is what everyone is craving. And like, no. I mean, later down the road, I was like, okay. Because, I didn't have a good. And I think with him, I had only done it like 2 times and then.
Well, we were talking about this the other day about not having that connection.
Yeah, there was no
that
connection.
Has a huge thing to do with.
Huge thing when you're having sex and giving your body to somebody, because you have to have that connection emotionally and spiritually, not just physically. And so we didn't have that, and so it was just a time in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. But I went off to college after that.
Okay. Now we're back.
Yeah. Went off to college and ended up dating, like my cousin's best friend, like friend of the family. And I think we only dated for like a year and a half. But this is somebody that I was never, ever interested in. Like, I wasn't attracted to this person, but they were persistent. And, at that time I was 18 and I guess I just like being in relation. I don't like being alone. It wasn't until later in life that I was like, the singleness is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But back then, no, I was like always in a relationship. And I think I only had like 2 to 3 months in between each relationship. High school relationships and college relationships. Like, I never had longer than 3 months in between, which is not healthy.
Yeah.
But this guy, so we dated, and I ended up getting pregnant. And it was my freshman year. I was living in the dorms and I was like on the verge of breaking up with him because we had broken up and got together, and that was an old pattern of mine. And so and then I think he kind of felt like I was going to or something. I don't know, because you can tell when somebody's getting distant and they're like, So we ended up having sex, and he was the first one I experienced, climaxing with. So I was like, okay, so we stayed together for like a year and a half. I was like, this is what they're talking about. Okay, this is good. I could do this. But I got pregnant and I decided not to keep the baby, and I ended up having an abortion. I didn't share that with a lot of people. Like, very few people knew that I actually did have an abortion. I was telling a lot of people that I miscarried because I think the reason why I lied about it is because I felt ashamed, but I also didn't want the judgment.
Yeah.
And so I just went with that. Oh, I had a miscarriage. And I even told him that too. I didn't even tell him what I really did. Until one day I got really drunk and I was in Las Cruces, and I ended up going over to his place and I ended up telling him that I had an abortion. And then I started crying because that's what alcohol does. So he knows, but in retrospect, And this is where sometimes I still, even now to this day, I'm like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but this is how I feel. This is my feelings. I know feelings aren't facts, but this is my reaction. So back then I did feel ashamed. I felt convicted. I cried for like 2 weeks straight after. And I prayed and I asked God for forgiveness, to forgive me for, killing his creation. And even though I had already asked him for forgiveness, for the years to come, I was asking him for forgiveness like every year.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I still wasn't forgiven.
Would that come close to that time when you did that? Like, so all those memories, or that would always be like, you think of like a birthday or an anniversary or something.
It was December
comes.
Because it was winter break, and I went home for winter break from the dorms, and I had my abortion in December during winter break back here in Albuquerque. And so I always remember around that time. So I had the abortion when I was 2 months pregnant, and I would have had a 16-year-old. So Carter's 15, so it would have been 16 and then 15. And I don't know if it was boy or girl, because you didn't know at that time. But you
said a feeling.
I've always felt like it was a girl. Yeah. Just, you have that mother's intuition, like feeling. I won't know till I die and I'm in heaven and I meet them, because I do believe that I will meet my baby in heaven.
Yes.
And so I, for the longest time, didn't feel like I was forgiven. So I would just ask him every year. And then I stopped one year because I learned that you only have to ask once. God gives us grace, and he knows our heart, and he knows my heart.
Yeah.
And so I needed to realize that I am forgiven, and I just needed to forgive myself, because it was me struggling to forgive myself. But then what I was trying to say before is, in retrospect, I don't regret my decision, because it brought me to where I am today. I'm the person that does not regret my decisions or choices, because I learned from them, and because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have met Carter's dad. I wouldn't have had Carter. I wouldn't have the life that I have now. I wouldn't be on this path that I'm on now if I didn't do that. And my reason for, I know many women have different reasons for aborting, but my reasons were, I felt like I was too young to be a mother.
And
but
you were 18 at that time?
I was 18.
You were in college?
I was in college.
First year of college?
First year, I leave. I get a taste of freedom, and bam. I'm like, dang it.
And this was the second sexual encounter that you had?
Yeah, second. And so then the other reasons were, I was too young, and I wanted to finish school. I wanted to make something of myself. He didn't really come from a really, I wouldn't say good family, but like he came from a family of alcoholism and drug addicts. And I didn't want to raise a child with all of that.
So and that played into your decision.
That played into my decision. And then also the fact that he didn't have a car. He didn't have a job. We used my car. I paid for stuff. Like I did not feel safe with him. I didn't feel secure, or that he could even provide. Like, there's just a lot of factors. And I'm like, do I really want to struggle for the rest of my life like this and be tied down to this person? That was my mentality at the age of 18. I was like, do I want to be tied down to this person? Is he the kind of man that could be a father figure, that could provide for his family? One, I wasn't serving then, so I wasn't like walking with God then. He wasn't a believer.
Yeah.
I wasn't dating believers. And so because I grew up knowing better, I made that decision. And yes, I made the decision knowing that what God's word says about abortion and death and all of that. But I believe he has forgiven me, and I have already forgiven myself, and I have moved past that. But it took me years.
Yeah.
And I think what got me there, got me over the hump to finally forgive myself and feel like I am worthy of his forgiveness. He's already forgiven me. It's like him dying on the cross. It is finished. It's done. He did that for us, for he knew all the sins we were already going to make in this lifetime.
Yeah.
He's already died for them. And so me coming to him humbly and asking for forgiveness and showing him my heart is all that he asks. And so I finally wrapped that concept around my brain after years and was like, and then I let it go. And so that was one of the times that I feel like I made a mistake and I struggled to continue my relationship with God because of my past mistakes, because I couldn't get over it. That was just one.
How long did you go through struggle in that mindset or dealing with that after you had the abortion till, like, how long did that affect you? Do you feel?
Oh, I don't know. I was 18, right, when that happened. And then I would say probably still until like my late 20s. It was a while.
So like almost 10 years.
Almost, yeah. Yeah, I would say like 28-ish. Yeah. And then get this. So I have the abortion at 18. Then at 19, I get pregnant again.
This is when you met
with
Manny.
Carter. Yeah. And it wasn't even like,
or no names, but
well, everybody knows my baby daddy. It's okay. Everybody knows. But yeah, I got pregnant again.
So what was your thought at that point?
Oh man. Well,
because you weren't much further from where you were at the first time.
I think it had not even been a year had passed.
Really? So after
maybe a year, but it was like maybe 10 months.
So that first relationship was pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
It was
a year and a half.
So after that was done, you had met Manny,
mm-hmm.
and then got pregnant.
Yeah.
Like probably right off the bat.
Like maybe 6 months. I don't even know. I'd have to really think about it, but like 6 months later maybe or something. And I'm like, man, I can't have an abortion again. Are you kidding me? I was like, I promised God when I prayed and asked for forgiveness, I would never do this again. Yeah. And so I kept my promise, but it was different this time.
Circumstances were different.
Yeah, it was different because Carter's dad is total different man, right? He was older, 5 years older. We weren't the same age. The first one, we were the same age. So this one's 5 years older. You know, he had his stuff together. He had an apartment. He had some savings in the bank. He had a car. He had a job. I was like, okay, this is a step up. Good job, Jelly. Like, okay. And his family was great.
Treated you well.
Loved his family. Well. Came from a great family background. He believed in God, even though he wasn't serving or in church. After my past relationship, I made it a point to any guy I date going forward. One of the first things I was going to be like, ask was, are you a believer? Do you believe in Jesus? Do you go to church?
At least your faiths were.
At least our faiths, we believed in the same things, but he grew up in a different church than I did. And you know, there's different churches out there, right? And so, and he grew up in one in California. And so the way he grew up in that church was different from what I grew up with. So even though we both believe in God and we both believe in prayer and we both had like the same Bible and all that, it was still different. Yeah. Because he came from a church that believed things I've never heard of in church before. Like that Adam and Eve, that their sin was that they had sex. That was their sin, even though God told them to procreate, right? Okay. So that was their sin. The devil does not exist. The devil is your own carnal mind. I couldn't wrap my brain around that one. So there was a few other things that, he grew up with that I didn't agree with.
Yeah.
And so that I think was one of our main issues was that being unequally yoked. But I think deep down, like, I felt so guilty about having my abortion that I wasn't being careful. And I subconsciously feel like I wanted to get pregnant on purpose because I felt so bad and I wanted to make it right. Subconsciously. That's not something that I actually thought of. But later, like after, I was like, because I didn't stop. I wasn't using protection. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, I won't get pregnant because, pull out method does not work, y'all. Just saying. But so it was just different. And I'm glad, like I have like I said, I have no regrets because I love Carter. Carter's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Like I was really blessed with him, and I feel like God knew I needed him. And like his heart and the type of kid that he is and how loving and affectionate he is, because I didn't grow up with that. And so God gave it to me in a son. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna start crying. Stop looking at me. But so even though I don't always know how to receive that love because I was never used to it, but I'm like so much better at it now. Yeah. I did struggle when he was younger. Like he would, want to come and cuddle and give me love, and I would push him away or be too busy, but that had nothing to do with him and everything to do with me. And so I've had conversations with him about that before, but I don't know how he feels like today. We'll have to have him on the show, on the podcast. But yeah, that was something I did not go through again because I decided to stay. And me and his dad were together for 9 years. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, you guys got married. We tried to make it work,
and
had moved forward and lived the family life, and
it wasn't a bad relationship. It's just that we were so young, we didn't have the same beliefs, and there was a lot of infidelity between both of us, and it was just different battles, and so but that would be.
But from the first guy that you're with versus being with Manny, when you look at that first relationship, and I'm sure many times you've probably thought, if I would have had this child, this is what my life probably would have been, or this is where it would have gone. Do you think about that at times? Because I know you said
sometimes,
that the reason why you did that is because there was a lot of negative stuff at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, sometimes I have thought about it. Like if I would have kept my first child, Manny might have not, I would have still been in the same town. I would have probably still have met Manny. But because Alamogordo is such a small town. Yeah. But I don't know if he would have. A lot of men don't want to be with someone that has another kid or kids from someone else, Yeah. So that it could have changed everything.
Yeah.
I would have been tied down to the first dad, right? I don't know how that would be. I don't know.
Well, you had kind of shared with that at one time that you said that because of the alcoholism, because of the way that the family operated and stuff, it was just bad.
Yeah.
Bad blood and bad
stuff. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so who knows? Maybe I would have had full custody and just done my own thing.
Yeah. Well, no one knows.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
You never know how
only
that's
God knows, but
play out, But
everything plays
even
out
at that time, at your age and stuff, you were young, and having the experiences that you have now, things are so much more different then. but.
Yeah. But then I think about like the women who try to have babies and they can't. And that made me feel guilty too back then. Like
Of being able to have the child,
yeah,
put it up for adoption.
Yeah. I could
all
have
that stuff,
totally done a whole adoption and I
But
didn't.
not knowing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Just lots of things that go through your mind. And before they do the procedure, they have you do a counseling session. I don't know how it works now. But they had me sit with a counselor the day of, right before the procedure. And they just ask you like, well, why do you want to do this? Are you sure this is what you want to do? And
yeah, I doubt they do that today.
they gave me
I think it's the opposite.
Oh, I'm sure. They gave me a pamphlet and of like the procedure and all this stuff and options. And I was just like, no, I want to do this. And back then I paid $400 for it. I don't know how much it costs now or if it's free. With this, our state's probably freaking free.
Yeah.
But that I didn't, even have that kind of money back there. I was a broke college student. So, I had someone I really trust and look up to and admire that helped me get through it. Yeah. And so
it's there to support you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I didn't have that, I probably would have been way worse. Way worse is not a word. I would have been worse. So then during the procedure, because, they put you to sleep, but you don't feel anything, but you're still awake and aware, but you don't feel anything. At least for me, I don't know. It was such a long time ago, but I do remember trying to get up from the table because they had already drugged me and they were starting, and I just wanted to see. I wasn't like trying to escape and leave, but I was like, I just want to see what's going on. Yeah. And the nurse that was by me, she's like, just lay down, close your eyes, relax. I was like, relax? Are you kidding me? How do you tell people to relax during this? I was just like, okay. And then once they're done, because it's like a vacuum that suctions, it out. Something like that. I heard a vacuum sound. I don't know. But once they're done, they take you to a room and give you a little baggie with your pills that you need to take for the next week for antibacterial.
To fight infections or anything that could happen.
Antibiotics. And they give you instructions and then they send you home. So I was like, oh, okay. That was fast. And that was it. I don't even remember the place or location, to be honest. No.
Well, I'm sure after that, you're probably just
you're in a daze.
In a daze.
And I really just wanted to eat
and...
because I was starving. Like, you can't eat for 24 hours before that.
Yeah.
So I was like, so, yeah. But
and how long after the procedure did it hit you, reality hit you of what happened, or was it kind of you've already knew? It wasn't like I just did this.
I don't know. I think that I was already kind of like mentally preparing myself for it because I was 2 months pregnant and I had been contemplating it for a whole month already. Going back and forth. Like, should I do this? Should I not?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think I was just like, okay, I'm ready for this chapter to be over. And
so was it when you got into the new relationship that's where some of the depression or struggles of that decision started to affect you, or not really your relationship, but you personally, or do you think it kind of played into?
No, I think it just played into my future decisions. But I don't feel like I really was in a really depressed state.
Yeah.
Until after I got divorced from Carter's dad. That was when I experienced depression. Maybe it started earlier and I just wasn't aware, but it was after, because divorce kind of feels like death, especially like 9 years, and then you have this whole new life, and then you're sharing a kid, and so you have to co-parent, and then it's just a whole new new things that I needed to navigate. And so every other week I wouldn't have Carter. And I didn't know what to do with myself.
You had all that time alone.
I had too much time to
and
think.
Your thoughts.
Yeah, and me and my thoughts back then. I was like, because we got divorced when I was like 23, 24.
Yeah.
20. We got married at 23, divorced at, I think, by 24. So I just...
But you guys were together for 8 years prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were only married for like a year. But we were together for a long time. And so... having to share Carter and not have him or be in control of his schedule for that week, because it's 1 week on, 1 week off, was really hard on me at that time. And so what did I do was I turned to sex and alcohol, and I would go out.
That's typically,
yeah,
that's typically the first obstacle that comes in front of you when you finish with divorce. Because the first thing you want to do is, of course, get your mind off of what happened, and then you want to experience things or do things that you felt you never got to do before.
Yep, exactly. I felt like I was tied down. I felt like I couldn't be myself, or I didn't feel free. Like there was a lot of opportunities that I had that I didn't take because I was with him.
As far as what do you mean by that?
Well, like I was still in school and I did finish my bachelor's while having a baby, and I graduated when he was like 3. And I had the opportunity to go travel abroad to Spain, but
because
he didn't want me to go. Yeah. And it was for just the summer. And then I found a program where I could just do 4 weeks instead of the whole summer. So I was like, okay, well, let me try to compromise. That didn't happen. Before I finished school, I applied to be a Border Patrol agent. I passed the test. I was getting ready to do like the interview process. He didn't want me to do that, so I stopped doing that. So there was just things like I felt like it was always a no. Like I'd express like, oh, I should do this, or I want to try to do this, and it was just like I'd get a no or talked out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe my life would have been differently if I had done those things. Who knows? Again, we were young. There was a lot of insecurity. And so when we got divorced, I was like, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to do everything I didn't want. So dumb me, started reaching out to ex-boyfriends, ex-flings, and like hung out with them. And that was where my promiscuity came in. And that was a poor decision. So that's, I still wasn't serving God yet. I was not living my life for the Lord. And so I became depressed, leaned towards sex and alcohol. And then I ended up contracting a permanent STD. Right. And so that was kind of like my rock bottom. When I found out that I had genital herpes, right? I was like pissed at myself, disappointed in myself. I felt ashamed. I was like, how could I let this happen? I should have known better. Your inner voice, like
all the things that you didn't put as a consequence prior are like reality now.
I should have thought about this. I was probably too drunk and didn't care, because there was lots of times where I was really drunk because I was trying to mask my feelings and not feel anything. And
this is pretty fresh after your divorce.
Yeah. But I was like that for like 2 years after my divorce. So like from age 24 to 26. And
at 26, that's when
more like 27. I was going to say is when I started to go back to church. So it was like 2 to 3 years after, probably closer to 3 years after I was in that state of mind. And when I got, because I'm trying to remember what year it was. Hold on. Let me think.
That'd be like 2017, 2016 or something.
2016. Like thank you. I was trying to figure out the math in my head. I graduated high school in 2006, but I remember getting diagnosed with the genital herpes in 2016 because it was the year that my little brother graduated high school, and we're 10 years apart. So I was like, I know this. So it was like May of 2016. Yeah. So Carter was like 7 years old, I think. Because he 8, 7, yeah. 7. So anyways, so I after that, I kind of cold it. I was like, okay, slow your roll. It brought me back to reality. And then I realized.
Well, I bet that was a big hit. That's something that you're probably just like,
yeah.
Oh, I did not expect this.
I didn't. And I was like, this is not the kind of mother I want to be. This is not the kind of wife I want my son to marry. Like, it hit me so hard that I was like, I don't want him to ever have to go through what I'm going through. I need to lead by example. I know his dad probably won't, because we had that conflict on our beliefs, right? And even though he still believes in God, he still doesn't go to church, still doesn't serve. So he gets all that from when he's with us here on our weeks. And so, and his dad even told me one time, I want to say it was a couple years ago, he goes, he said to me over the phone, Carter knows God because of you. He goes, because you take him to church and because of how you're raising him. And he thanked me for it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, thank you. Because I never thought that would ever come out of his mouth. Like, I mean, we have a good relationship. So for him to acknowledge that meant a lot. And so, and I think Carter would agree,
Well, yeah.
And so that time, 2016, brought me back to reality. I started attending church. And so I attended, our church, and decided I needed to get involved. So I started being a greeter. And then I was like, I need to just start all over fresh, and I'm going to get baptized again. Because I hadn't gotten baptized since I was 10. So I was like, a lot happens from 10 to 26. So I was like, okay, I'm going to rededicate my life to the Lord. I got baptized. I remember crying after I got baptized. Like, I came out of the water and I was like crying. It was awesome. It was an awesome feeling. And Pastor Brian Clampett is the one who
really?
baptized me. Yeah. And that was at East Campus. And then after that, I mean, I want to say my life completely changed, but we're human. So I still kind of struggled a little bit with the world, but I was consistent. So I would still go to church. I would still serve. I was consistent, but there was times where I'd be like, on the weekend, maybe I drank, but the whole having sex outside of marriage thing, kind of, that one pretty much slowed down. I was like, no. Sometimes I'd fall, but it wasn't like before. And then
you weren't going out and seeking it purposefully.
Right.
It was something you go on a date or something happened and lead to that.
But I was in the Word.
Yeah.
I was attending church. And then I started thinking like, man, well, now who's going to want me? Having that this STD, because I still have it, made me feel even more unworthy. Here's another mistake that hindered my relationship with God. Because even though I still went to church and I was serving and I got rebaptized and all of that, I didn't feel worthy to be there. I didn't feel worthy to serve. I didn't feel worthy to go to church.
Yeah.
Every time I'd have an outbreak, oh my gosh, my mood would be different. I'd feel awful. I would like hide in my corner, I'd get down. And it was another moment where I was asking God to forgive me over and over. Like, I'm sorry, please heal me. Like, do I believe in healing? Yes, I do. God heals when he wants to heal.
Yeah.
And, you know, thankfully, like back then I was having an outbreak. Oh my gosh, like every month, you know, so stress causes outbreaks, your diet. But I was having so many, I had to be on the medication like every single day. Take a pill a day. Like I thought I was going to be like that for the rest of my life. So I ended up doing the suppressive therapy where you take the pill every day instead of just when you have your outbreaks. But then like now I don't have that many outbreaks. Not every month like I used to. Now it's maybe every so often when I'm really feeling stressed about something. And, but for me, it was hard because I had to forgive myself for that. And that took me another 3 years to forgive myself. Because even though I asked for forgiveness, but I hard on myself and I didn't forgive myself. So I did. And now I feel fine. Now I'm over it, but it still kind of sucks sometimes because even in our relationship, you know, we can't have sex when I have an outbreak, right?
Yeah.
So
well, that's something that I'm
very open about it,
aware of, and
I'm like, can't right now. Sorry, this is why.
Yeah.
And
you catch things quick too. I mean, like you've been very vocal in how, like before you, I've never was educated on it.
Mm-hmm.
Was still kind of am not, but just based on what you've shared with me and everything. But typically you can feel that coming on when you're stressed or you're overwhelmed with something.
I feel an outbreak coming. I'm going to start my medication. I'm going to wait a few days and then sometimes I am so busy I don't get on my medication right away. So I'm like, ugh, got an outbreak, got to wait, you know. So, I mean, I don't feel like it's affected our sex life because like I think since we've gotten together, I've had maybe 3.
Yeah, over the
2
past
years,
year and a half.
Like, yeah, but that's a lot better than like every month. My gosh, it was awful. So I am aware, but back then when I was new and I was still learning about it, I was like, okay, well, how do I address this with my sex partners? Like, do I tell them before I have sex or do I only have to tell them if I have an outbreak? Like, I was trying to figure that out. I even asked, I think, my OBGYN, and they were not helpful at all. And so I was just like, okay. I was like, I need to figure this out because on one hand, I felt convicted not telling them like, oh, hey, yeah, let's have sex. But then I'm not going to tell you. Like, because if it was me, I would want to know beforehand, even if you don't have an outbreak. I would want to know, hey, by the way, listen, I do want to take this next step with you, but I need to share this with you. And now I'll answer any questions you have. And, you know, if this is a deal breaker for you, I can respect that. And so I remember the first conversation I had to have with somebody after I had gotten that, it was actually with Chris, my late husband, because I think there was like one guy before him that I was kind of seeing, but I didn't really share it with him because I didn't have an outbreak, and I was just like, it's not somebody serious. Yeah. So for me, in my mind, I was like, okay, if it's serious, like, and I really like this person, I'm going to let them know before. Yeah. So I told him, I was all crying my eyes out thinking, this is it. We're done. No. Oh my gosh. Total opposite. He was just like, okay. Like, didn't faze him. He probably had some thoughts, didn't share them with me, you know, man of little words, but he didn't judge me and he didn't make me feel worse,
unworthy.
And he just hugged me and he was like, okay, we'll deal with it. I'm sure he did some Googling. That's what I would have done. But But yeah, and I told him, I was like, this is what this means. Like, I just can't have sex when I have an outbreak, and just gotta be careful and like all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It didn't affect us either, but I was really more stressed at that time, that I had more outbreaks in my relationship with him than I do now. And I was trying to get a handle of it. So I think I finally got a handle of it. But I still believe in my healing, and I still ask God to heal me, let his will be done whenever it is, because maybe I'll go 2 years without an outbreak. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years.
It can. I mean, you've gone multiple months. I mean, there's months you've gone without anything, and I'm sure you probably just, it goes out of mind. You don't even think about it.
I know. But sometimes, but
then you get overwhelmed and you get stressed and you got this going on and that going on and that going on. And then
I overbook myself a lot.
And then you even catch yourself before. Like every time you say, oh, I'm so stressed, I need to stop because I'm going to, you like already know it's coming. And then all of a sudden, like 2 days later, a day later, you're like, babe.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I was stressing. But yeah, you go quite a while without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very proud of myself.
That, so.
But I do feel like sometimes, like when I have an outbreak now, like if we haven't had sex in maybe 2 days or something, I feel so bad because I can't control my outbreaks.
No.
So I just feel so bad because now you got to wait even more time. Sometimes it's only 3 to 4 days. Sometimes it's a whole week. Like, it just depends. And I feel bad. But I mean, I try to take care of you in other ways, because.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, I don't, even that is something that affects us in our sexual experience.
Mm-hmm.
You always take care of me aside from that.
Yeah.
So sometimes I don't even have to say anything. It's just like, babe. And then there's other times I'll be like, babe, like I need you to help me.
I think you've only done that like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and that just keeps me from my mind or my desires or temptations.
And that is why we talk a lot about communication, because you need that in your relationship. Like, I'm glad I feel comfortable and safe with you that I can tell you what I'm struggling with, or, hey, I have an outbreak, and not feel like you're going to reprimand me or be like my father and like, or judge me, because we're partners. And so I can come to you about anything. Oh, I got in a car accident. Oh, I hit the curb. The tire's all jacked up. I don't feel like if I tell you, like, you're going to yell at me like you're my dad. I had that in past relationships. Like, even in like with Carter's dad, I did kind of had a fender bender in our Jeep. I got yelled at, a grown freaking adult. And I got yelled at. And he made me feel like I was a child. I was like, what the freak? Like, what? No, that's not how a relationship should be. And so with you, it's like, I can come and tell you anything. And then you're like, okay, well, we're going to fix it. Like,
yeah,
it shouldn't be that difficult.
No, but a lot of times people put value on objects, and they put value on materialistic things, when in all reality, the only thing that matters is you. Yeah. You and the children. I mean, are you safe? Are you hurt? Yeah. And everything else can always be replaced. I don't
even remember getting asked if I was okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I'm calling, I'm okay, I guess. Yeah. But not the point.
Yeah, there's different things. There's different ways, but
yeah, it's definitely been a journey, dealing with past mistakes and having to still try to nurture my relationship with God. I'm finally at a place at 35 where I no longer feel that shame, and I feel worthy. I'm confident in who I am, and confident in my relationship with God. Yeah. Like, there's things that I still need to work on, because we're a work in progress. And, and one of my favorite quotes that I always say is, it's about progress, not perfection. Mm-hmm. So if I'm better than I am yesterday, great. If I fall today, well, guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. And that's just my mentality now. And so I wish I had that mentality back then. But now I just feel so much more like secure in my own skin and my relationship with you too.
Well, and I think all that plays in your decisions. I mean, when you're in a place where you're not valued, when you're in a place where you're not appreciated, or you feel like you're a child, or you're talked to like you're stupid, or you're not, you're an adult, but you're spoken to like you're not, and then going through all these different emotions, and of course when you go through divorce and stuff like that, all that stuff builds up. All that stuff builds up into our decisions. All that stuff builds up into the way we act, the way we respond to things.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the reasons why we tend to jump into things without thinking, because if we did think about the decisions we would make, and if we were still connected to God in that way of like, okay, God, I'm going to honor you in this way, then we wouldn't fall into a lot of these things that bring us into rejection and depression and having all these problems and all these things that come with it,
Yeah.
But I love the fact that through everything that you've experienced and gone through, it has made you the woman that you are today.
It has.
And I love the way you carry yourself. I love how you do have a relationship with God, and it's not just something that you say. I see it. And you've carried me through times when I didn't have that stability in my life, where that was far away from me, where at times that I was like, I should be better. I know better,
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you.
Thank you, baby.
I'm proud of you for who you are and how you respond to things and
Thank you.
decisions you make. And I think you're very wise. You're very strategic in what you do and how you do things. And I know I can put all my trust into you and decisions and things that we do and where we go in life. So.
Likewise.
And I love the fact that you trust me the same way. I know
I
that,
do.
so.
I sure do. I do,
Good.
baby. Well, do you want to add anything? I think that's all I have.
Well, no, because my computer just died. But
Is it still recording?
yeah, well, we're recording off the interface.
Gotcha. Well, here.
It's nice.
Here, baby.
So, I don't remember.
I think I touched everything.
I think that's kind of it.
It just takes time and patience with yourself to forgive yourself and to move forward when you've made a mistake that you can't get over, right?
Yeah.
But also having people in your life that can speak life into you, that really know you at your core and tell you you're not that person. You made a mistake. How do we move forward? Like having these conversations with people you trust.
Yeah.
I had those people. And if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. Who you surround yourself makes a huge difference in how you see yourself.
Yeah.
And who you surround yourself makes a massive change in where you go in life,
Yeah.
Having that relationship with God and, like you said, forgiving yourself, that's the hardest part. A lot of times we won't give ourselves forgiveness.
Yeah.
But yet we expect God to forgive us, and we expect others to forgive us, or we expect, all these things to change. And that happens, but then we carry this big old load of every regret, everything that we've had. And the great thing is, God doesn't require us to carry that. And despite what we've done in our lives and decisions that we made and how it affects us or others, you can move on from that to a place where you can live in freedom and you can live in peace, and
Yeah.
God will give you that strength and peace to cover anything that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that when we turn away from that and we go, oh, well, I'm going to do my thing, that's where we fall into the problems of all this stuff that comes up. And then when we look at God, or if we're living a life where, oh, well, I can do this, he'll forgive me. That's where you're in very dangerous territory.
Yep.
And that's somewhere where you should not be and don't desire to be.
Well, because
it's hard to get out of that.
You're choosing to do something you know you're not supposed to. Choosing to sin. Choosing just because you know, oh, I'll be forgiven.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No. He sees your heart.
Mm-hmm.
God sees your heart. God knows who you are. God knows where your intentions are. So,
very true, baby.
It's good.
Well, good. Well, we shared a lot today, and we hope that by us sharing a piece of us, that you maybe would get something out of it, or learn something, or grow from it. Give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. And if you've gone through something similar, we'd like to hear about that too, and how you coped and how you moved past it.
I think, everything that we share on here, and every time we bring something, it's always how we've overcome, how we've moved forward on things that we've done.
How we've turned the page.
And where we're at in life right now.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. We just have to do the ending. Well, thank you for tuning in to Turning the Page with that part. Yes. Don't move the camera. Just move the angle. Okay. You got to fix your guitar.
We are back on.
I can see your shyness.
I know.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We would love your feedback. Like, share, subscribe. You know it. And thank you for listening to Turning the Page with
Jer
and Jel. We'll see you next time.
Bye.